We will go ahead and start the September 28th meeting of the Louisville Metro Waste Management District Board at 5:35. And the first order of business is welcome, everybody. Good to see familiar faces again. First item of business is the approval of the minutes of the August 24th meeting. Everybody had a chance to review those, and does anybody have any suggested changes, deletions, omissions? Okay, hearing none, can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Deethra, motion to approve. Second by Deborah, correct?
Yes.
Is there any additional? We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll just do a roll call on this, or in a voice vote on this. All of those in favor of approving the August 24 minutes signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the August 24th minutes are passed. Next item of business, the budget report.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is this year's budget, this current year's budget report. As you can see up the top, we now have our rollover amount, which is $2,560,000. I'm still a little bit hesitant on that number, although they tell me that it's closed and should be what it is. As I told you, we had a new budget person, but we got switched again. So I need to get up to speed with them. Our revenue is coming in strong already. We're at 30%, which is great. A lot of that, when we turn into our new fiscal year, a lot of license fees come in all at once. So that puts us ahead. On our total expenditures, we're at $305,965 so far, which is 22% of expected, which is probably just slightly under our estimate. So our balance without our rollover is $131,783. The one thing that you'll see in your packet when you looked at the budget report is the contractual services is actually much higher on the budget amount. That's because that's where they put the rollover amount. I did not include it here so we can see what our actual contractual services is compared to the normal budget. So that's why it sits at 18%. So just wanted to let everybody know that. Does anybody have any questions about this budget? That's the budget report.
Okay. Hearing no questions, I guess we'll move on to the next item of business. Correspondence to the board.
Yes, sir. The first letter we received was from the NWRA, which is Bob Lee. He's chairman. I don't have, Bob is not here tonight to speak to it. The letter was sent out with all of this to all of the board members prior to this. So unless anybody has any objection, I won't read it into the record. And if anybody has any comments or concerns.
I'll just make a comment or two. I had replied by email to Bob's letter telling him that I wasn't quite sure what he was referring to when he kept talking about the diversion baseline. Pardon me, let me silence this phone. And he said that he was referring to the goals, the diversion goals that were established by the Waste Management District, and they were established a number of years ago by previous boards as a way to gauge how well we were doing in our efforts to promote waste reduction, reuse, and recycling. And he was suggesting that these diversion goals should be adjusted as part of the 5-year solid waste plan that we're working on now, more to bring them more in line with diversion goals that were suggested by the Metro Solid Waste study that was done several years ago. And the issue that I would have with that is these diversion goals are locally developed, something that we developed. I shouldn't say we. I wasn't on the board when they developed them. But goals that are used to be reported on by staff annually and kind of give us an idea of how well we're progressing towards trying to cut down the waste stream. These diversion goals are not part of the requirements for the 5-year solid waste management plan that we're currently working on. And they're not referenced in the solid waste plan. They're not required or asked for by the documents that the state sends out that staff has to fill out in order to file a solid waste plan. And if parties such as the MWRA feel like that these goals should be updated or changed or adjusted in some way, they can be addressed at any time the board feels like, or staff feels like they need to be addressed, or if it's brought up with the advisory committee and the advisory committee thinks it's a good idea to change those goals or change how those goals are quantified. That can be done at any time since it's an internal measurement that staff is using to report to the board. I think it's probably not appropriate to try to do it now when the annual report is due and we're under some pressure to get it done, especially since it's not part of the required 5-year plan. We still have to have a plan that's submitted to us by the advisory committee. And we have had several versions done, but once that is done, the board has to accept that. If the board accepts it, we have to put it out for public notice, and it has to be out for public notice for 30 days. And then we have to hold a public hearing, get comments from the public and any interested parties. And then the board will have to, in rather quick order, staff input, decide if the board wants to make any changes based on the comments that we received. And then the board has to meet and act and adopt the plan. And I think we're is December 15th is our deadline?
Yes, sir.
So that's my opinion, that we can't jump into this and try to change how we actually measure what we're doing right in the middle of trying to do this solid waste management plan, particularly since diversion measurements are from time to time can be really hard to do just based on what's going on in the recycling market, what's going on actually out in real life where homeowners and businesses are operating. So anyway, that's just my comments. And I replied that to Bob that I didn't think it was appropriate to try to jump into this now since it's not part of the solid waste management plan. Actually, I don't think our diversion goals, correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, but I don't think we've ever reported our diversion goals in the annual report, have we?
In the 5-year solid waste management plan?
I'm sorry, in the 5-year solid waste plan.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I can't speak to plans that were previous to me.
So anyway, that's my comments on the letter that Bob sent. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I for clarifying because I did have a question about if we had a slot vote, what. So, thank you for explaining that.
Oh, you broke up a little bit, Susan. Did I'm not sure I caught everything you said, other than thanks for addressing that at the end.
Yes, I had questions as to what our baseline was and how we could measure our progress against what baseline we've set. So I think you explained that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's part of it. The way Bob wrote that letter, I was putting more emphasis on the baseline, and he was putting emphasis on trying to change the actual way that we do the measurement as opposed to the baseline. Okay, the next item or on the agenda, was the reply to the Lake Forest community.
So at the last meeting, I think there was, we received some correspondence from the Lake Forest community in reference to the 5-year solid waste management plan. Bob had said during the meeting that there was a couple things that he felt was a concern with the letter, and asked that we generate a letter back. And this was the letter that we worked with Bob to send to the Lake Forest Community Association. So again, this letter was given to everyone before the meeting. So I won't read it into the record unless somebody requests to do so.
Yeah, I'll just make another comment on that. In the letter, well, you can see there in the letter that was sent back, Mr. Gupta had said it was their understanding that the 109 board was working towards a mandatory recycling program. And, I'm sorry, but that's just incorrect. There's nothing in the solid waste plan, nor has there ever been in the solid waste plan, that would require mandatory recycling. Any other?
Bob, this
question?
is Andy Reynolds with WM. I think there may have been some confusion there when the NWRA actually made the presentation to the advisory committee and the 109 board, talking about updating Metro ordinance to require haulers to offer containers for recycling, carts as opposed to bins. I wonder if there was some confusion there, that the requirement to offer that was actually a requirement to use the container and participate.
I mean, that's kind of news to me. I wasn't aware that anybody had proposed that we would require.
Oh no, that was a proposal from the NWRA.
Oh, okay.
So I was wondering if that had caused some confusion.
Yeah, that's a reasonable possibility. Could assume. Yeah.
Bob, if I could, I think some of this stems from confusion about the differences between the study that was conducted in 2016 and the actual solid waste management plan. That's the official document of the board. The study was made for every entity in Jefferson County to use as they saw fit to determine, to see what they want. Nobody really adopted it. It wasn't an adoptable plan, and it wasn't a legal plan. But the Waste District kind of took it on as, hey, this plan has a lot of information in it. Maybe we need to look at all these recommendations. And I think that over time that has kind of morphed into that it was the plan when it was really it was a study. So I think there has been a little bit of confusion between those two. But I think it's, and according to this letter, that's what we kind of thought could have been the case. And I just feel like that trying to make that clarification is important to everybody. Difference between the study and a difference between the plan.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, next item is action items on the agenda. Sorry.
Yeah, the first action item is the calendar year 23 litter abatement grant application. This is an annual grant. Many of you may remember this from year to year. This is, it's not necessarily a grant that you have to write a grant to. It's a grant that you can apply for based upon KRS. The state sets aside $5 million a year for these grants, which also includes not just litter, but illegal open dumps, tires, recycling, composting grants, household hazardous material grants. We typically use this for the litter abatement grant the most. And then once they get all of the applications in all across the states, then they kind of divide up the money that they have, depending upon how many people have applied, the number of road miles in that county, and such. So last year we received 420,000, which was higher than we normally did. I think that was a result of COVID and a lot of counties not being able to do litter abatement. So we just we want to go ahead and make our application. We have to have this in by November 1st so that we can get our fair share. And I ask that the board approve this. There was all the information for this grant was in your board packet. And if you approve, I'll get that signed by Bob and get that off to the state.
Can I have a motion to submit the grant application?
I'll make a motion to submit the grant application.
Okay, thank you, Mary Rose. We have a second.
I'll second.
Well,
Okay, we have a second. I think the second was the first was by Deborah.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions of staff about this grant money? Okay, hearing none. Pete, would you just call the roll for this since it involves money?
Sure. Mary Rose Evans,
Yes.
Carl Braisley,
Yes.
Susan Hart,
yes.
Keith Shipley,
Yes.
Deborah Thompson,
Yes.
and Bob Schindler.
Yes.
Passes unanimous.
Thank you all very much. Next action item.
Yes, this is a late addition to the agenda. I wanted to see if the board would support and fund some additional surveillance cameras for us. The board has in the past purchased several of these surveillance cameras. I think it was like the last time it was 20 surveillance cameras. Metro Council has, Metro Government has also funded some of these. But where we're at right now, we've had probably 6 to 7 of our existing cameras. Some of them were stolen. Some of them have broken and cannot be repaired. We've also, while we have been at the edge of what we can handle, because we've got 80 of them, we've been at the edge with what we can handle with our staffing, but we've gotten better. And we started to use certain things like some of these solar panels, which has helped us to be more efficient. So what we want to do is expand and replace some of them that we've had damaged, and then upgrade to a larger storage disk. So up in the upper right hand or upper left hand of the pictures, you can see a solar charger, and that hooks up to to the camera, and it prevents the batteries dying from before we can get back to it in maintenance. So we've had that problem, especially in areas with a huge number of triggers. And one particular spot on Louisville Avenue, we had the camera take over 200,000 images in less than a month. And typically the camera would have died in a day or two. And with the solar charger, it never died. So that was big for us. So we want to purchase 10 of those for areas that we have massive amounts of triggers, so that we can keep our cameras operating so we don't miss anything. The second part of that is the larger storage disk, and we're currently operating with 32 gigabyte disks size wise, and they've served us fairly well. But the longer that we've left them out there, we're running into times when they're getting full. And what we want to do is expand to 128s and some the 256 gigabytes so that we don't miss things from a full storage. So we're asking for 10 to 20 of those, or 20 of the 256 and 128 and 50 of the 128 gigabyte ones. And that will help us significantly. And then a small thing, which is the organizer, and of course the security package, because if we don't have the security package, they're much easier to steal. We are working really hard right now to find ways to harden this thing up. And it's really kind of amazing that we've only had a few of them stolen, but we're trying to do a little bit better at that. So what I'm asking for the board to approve up to $16,000 for us to expand our program and replace some of the broken or stolen cameras. I will show you these because the cameras do work. These are 3 impounds that we've had this week based upon these cameras.
This week.
3 this week. And we don't get 3 every week, but it seems like it's been a good week. We've got 20 vehicles we're out there looking for right now. But you can see the images that we get. They're really good. One of them was filling up the dumpster that's the one on the right, filling up that dumpster. It had just been emptied and it was filled and then stuff put on the ground, which is a really big problem. It was a community center. And I mean, it's like a parade of people going there to illegally dump, and it's costing Metro government and that community center a lot of money from charges. This middle one was from South Park Road, which is another one that gets heavy dump. And this was a van that we caught, one of many that we've caught out there. And the other one I think is on Cedar Street. And they dumped quite a bit of material. But anyway, you can see the impact that it has. And when we get to a spot and we work it, all of a sudden the dumping kind of slows down. So these cameras are important. And if you guys approve these funds, I can guarantee that we're going to put them to good use in trying to slow down illegal dumping in our community.
Have you actually made any, I guess you don't arrest them, but have you implemented any fines for the ones that you've caught this week that you showed us, or?
The ordinance, we have to issue civil citations. The typical fine is $500. If we have to go out and clean up the stuff, it's another $250 at a minimum. And then when we impound it, they have to pay the impound fees, which typically add up to about $250. So it's an expensive thing. It's about $1,000 to get caught. Particularly, when we put it out there on social media, there could have been a pop-up drop-off event that weekend. They could have gotten rid of it for free.
Mm-hmm.
So $1,000 is a pretty good hit, and the loss of their truck for up to 3 days is another big hit. If they don't pay those fines, we keep the truck for up to 6 months or a year, depending upon what part of the ordinance that we cite them. And they won't come get the truck because the fees would be more than what the truck is worth.
So you've actually got those in place as a result of these cameras?
Yes.
Okay. It seems like a good investment to me. I would be in favor if we have a vote.
Well, can we have a motion to approve this expenditure?
I'll make the motion to approve
I'm
this.
sorry, go ahead.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Deborah and a second by Deethra. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion or questions on the motion? Okay, hearing none, you want to call a roll call vote, please?
Mary Rose Evans.
Yes, and kudos to staff for figuring out these solar panels and bigger discs. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Carl Brazley.
Yes.
Deborah Thompson.
Yes.
Deethra Shipley.
Yes.
Susan Hart.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous. You guys keep moving around. Oh, Bob Schindler, you guys keep moving around on the screen, getting me out of order.
Yes.
Bob Schindler, thank you. Thanks, everybody. We'll put it to good use.
Thank you all very much. There was just a question related to this. There was, I don't remember whether I saw this on social media or if this was in the newspaper, but when you catch somebody on camera, then you send out a citation to them, right? Anyway, what I saw, it appeared where the person that got that citation voluntarily turned the truck in. Is that the case?
That is the case. And one of the issues that we've had is getting LMPD to a place so that we can serve these citations. And it's made us to where we've actually lost people because we can't detain them. All we can do is go find them. For safety purposes, we have to have LMPD with us and for us to do it. So we thought, well, what's it going to hurt for us to go ahead and send these citations in the mail and post it on their doors? And so we gave it a try. And we've had probably about, 40% of the people that we issue these to, they come to our doorstep and bring their truck, pay their fines, and we impound it from here.
Huh. Wonderful.
Good for us.
Yeah.
It's safer for us, and it's worked well.
Well, I second it. Good job.
Great job.
Thank you all for that. Next item is old business.
Should I go ahead, Pete?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm gonna give you all an update on our education and outreach marketing campaign. As we've shared with you already, we have Field Trip as our vendor, and we now have had our kickoff meeting where Pete and I had a really long meeting with their team, and they asked us lots and lots of questions, and we brainstormed and just kind of gave them all kinds of information for them to get started with. They've done some ride-alongs with our crews a couple times, went on a garbage route and a recycling route. And they asked for some people to have stakeholder interviews. So we set them up with some emails and connected them with folks. I think they're still working on some of those. They have tentatively scheduled October 10th for their first presentation with, whatever they're coming up with. So we don't have anything to share yet. We have asked Carl from the board, along with Hillary from Rumpke, to be part of, along with the staff, Antonio, Rob, Pete, and I, to be that team that hears these presentations. And we'll keep bringing updates to you guys at these meetings as well.
Karen, if I could add, one particular focus right now with that marketing group is litter messaging. You guys approved $25,000 at the beginning of the year for anti-litter messaging, and that has to be spent before the end of the year. So we have asked them to gear towards that anti-litter messaging first. So, that's what you'll get. And hopefully once we get a little bit more material, they'll be able to come before the board and introduce themselves and kind of show where we're at and let you guys ask questions of them. So I'm excited about the process. This is something that we've needed for quite some time.
Any other questions from board members? Comments? Okay, thank you very much, Karen. Also, thank you, Carl, for lending your experience with this too. If we have no other questions, advisory committee report.
Well, we have some new business, Bob, education position changes and additional staff.
Okay, I apologize. That wasn't on the copy that I printed out here.
Okay. So the Department of Public Works is doing a little bit of reorganization, and they want to make a few changes. And some of those we're kind of trying to take advantage of with the Waste Management District. And the first one, what we really kind of want to do is get your input first before we get too much further down the line with DPW. So the first one is to create a recycling and education manager. That would typically be what Karen would move into. And it's really kind of expanding her role from supervisor to include managing these contracts for marketing and the messaging that comes from it. And then also to put her a little bit more over the full service recycling centers, so that it's kind of expanding that. That also takes a little bit more things off of my plate, which is I support 100%. The second one is the compliance and enforcement compliance manager. It has been shortened from compliance and enforcement manager. And the reason that is because I will be offloading some of the enforcement back to Robert Lush, who is our Clean Collab coordinator, and that was created under Metro Government last year. So looking to put Rob back over that role as enforcement, and because it fits with that Clean Collab a lot. And then it would allow me to focus more on compliance of the licensed facilities and the waste collectors. And it also kind of updates already that I am the executive director of the Waste District, and that I would serve as the solid waste coordinator for local Metro Government or the county as required by KRS. So though that would take some of the load that I have currently, which is also good for succession planning in the next few years, and hopefully that I'll be able to retire. And then since we would be moving Karen to that recycling and education manager position, we would want to backfill with another education coordinator and probably move another supervisor into her current role. So we're just trying to make these changes. Number one, it makes us a little bit more efficient. And it also focuses on education based upon the 5-year plan and a lot of the stuff that we have where we want to really focus hard on education. So we're building out our education department. So I more or less just kind of wanted to get the board's opinion on this and feedback. Director Burns and HR kind of want to have the board's feeling on it before they kind of move on it. So any comments, questions?
seems to make some sense to me, or good sense to me. Would you be coming to us at some point in time to get additional funding for the public education add-on?
If we need to, we will. Of course, any kind of position that's going to be added, I think that we would come to you with a pay scale. We couldn't really give you an exact number until the position is negotiated with whoever we choose. But we know what the position of the extra education, public education coordinator would be. And I can have all those numbers, but if you guys agree in general, I can go ahead and put a little bit more of this in motion and get you some additional information.
Hey, Pete, I had a question about all this. One, I like all of it. Two is I guess the executive director of the waste district still the director of SWIMS?
No.
Okay.
No, it has been delegated to me at this particular time.
Okay. So, I feel like with this compliance manager kind of job description, you're written here, that's more fitting of the executive director of the waste district. Does that make sense?
You broke up a little bit. Could you say it again?
That would be more like what you're talking about doing would be more fitting for the executive director of the waste district instead of as a compliance manager. Does that make sense?
So your recommendation would be that the job title would change to executive director?
Yes.
Okay. I will take that back to him.
Especially if that's already been delegated to you to do, taking on this from the board as well as the compliance stuff. And I agree with peeling off some of the enforcement, some of the education stuff, and kind of delegating those to Rob and Karen, who I think more than have shown that they can do it.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments, questions from the board members? I'm going to assume, since we don't have any objections from board members, that we would, the board assume is giving you the okay to continue moving in this direction. It makes sense to me, and what Kendrick said also is a good point.
Thank you.
Anything from the board members on this? Okay, thank you all very much. Obviously keep us posted on that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else in new business?
No, sir.
Okay. Advisory committee report.
I'll give the report this week. Bruce take it. So most of the meeting spent going over the 5-year solid waste management plan. There are a few comments and concerns here and there, but overall the plan is complete, pending some revisions to it. And the committee didn't feel like it was done enough to vote on to be able to send it to the 109 board at that meeting. So we're going to have a special meeting the first week of October to finalize that, so we can get it to you guys and have time before the October 9 board meeting.
So it's looking like what Pete has on the screen, where you have completed almost all of it except for the chapter 3 section on disposal.
That's correct.
I think Pete, you sent out the latest draft to board members, correct?
I did.
Yeah.
And as part of that, I think that the intent to going ahead and getting it to you guys is the fact that this is it's a whole lot of information. And if we throw it at you all at once, there's just no way. So wanted to go ahead and start to give you some of that information, give you guys an opportunity to give some feedback to us so that we know that we have went into the right direction. Obviously, everything's up for change at this particular time until we go out to public comment, in which case that we stop until we get those comments and then we see if we need to make additional changes. But I wouldn't mind going over the plan. Nothing will suffice. Nothing will replace the fact that you need to read the plan. And I know it's a lot and I know it's boring, but it is something that you have to do. I'm not going to sit here and read the plan to you. That would be crazy for me to do. But what I want to do is kind of go over some of the most important parts so that you're aware of those things, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me switch my.
And I should say, I mean, it goes without saying, but as Pete goes through this, board members just jump in if you have something rather than try to hold it till the end.
So forgive me in the fact that I've went through this thing probably 50 times. So if I gloss over something because I think I've said it 50 times and you want to talk about it, jump out. So the first chapter is background information. It's not anything that is controversial at all. It's more or less who we are. But the most important parts of that first chapter is that we give a resolution adopting it. And that will be after we have our public comment period and our public hearing. So that will be forthcoming when you guys are ready to say, yes, that's what we want to send to the state. We adopt it through that ordinance. And we have to show proof that we published this in a newspaper for at least 30 days. And then an area designation, which says that Jefferson County is its own solid waste management planning area. And that's been done through ordinance anyway. The next chapter is the collection system. And the first part of this, it goes through really describing the system in detail. And as much detail as is in here, there probably could be even more. But we have a very complicated solid waste management system in Jefferson County. So we can't put everything in there. And that is actually a weakness of the plan, according to the state. But we do go over the residential collection, the commercial collection, the bulky waste collection, the drop-off system, and even get into the education part of that. So unless I don't think that there would be any questions there other than reading it, I think is very important for you guys. As far as the strengths go.
Just out of curiosity, and let me interrupt you, but you said the state thinks that the fact that we're so complicated, we haven't described it well enough.
Yeah, let me get to the part of the weaknesses that they suggested that we put in there, and I'll explain a little bit more. So our strengths are that we have mandatory collection. A lot of counties out in the state don't have mandatory collection, and they have waste. They get these big dumps of waste in their communities, in their illegal open dumps. We're lucky we don't have true illegal open dumps, primarily because we have a mandatory collection system. Another thing is that all waste must be contained. Some communities still allow waste to be set out in plastic bags, which can get scattered all over the place. So we have that everything has to be in the waste container. We do yard waste composting here, where it's composted or used in a beneficial manner. Most communities don't have that asset, which is great. Another really good thing about our collection system here and a strength is that a lot of the county is under a municipal or contracted collection, which has shown to be pretty much the most efficient way to collect waste. There is the open market system in the subscription area, which does keep prices down in that subscription area. Most of the area has large capacity recycling carts, and there are many drop-off opportunities for people in our community, including our pop-up drop-off events and numerous recycling sites to drop off. So all of those are really good, and a lot of things that communities out in the state don't necessarily have. So we should be proud of that and all the work that took place to get us there. Some of the weaknesses is that the subscription-based collection system, which is in the unincorporated and uncontracted areas, that is provided by multiple haulers in an overlapping manner, is inefficient as compared to the rest of that contracted and municipal collected area. So that's one of our weaknesses. And the fact that we have a subscription-based area, people don't always obtain those services. So you've got non-participation, and that non-participation has an impact. People illegally dump into businesses' dumpsters or along the side of the road. It increases people's costs because these piles of trash pile up next to other people's homes. 5 waste haulers on roads typically will wear roads a lot faster. Increased costs from health problems, from the particulate emissions from those large trucks, increased greenhouse gases, and probably more important, an increased potential for accidents to have up to 5 of these large trucks operating in the same neighborhood. These trucks are, they're big, they're dangerous, they're not great for residential streets. Another problem that we have is that we have an inconsistent or overly complex communication, mostly because we have so many different ways that we provide services. That's when we talk about a complicated area. We don't have necessarily an official technical assistance and outreach program for residents, businesses, and multifamily properties. This is something that we know and that we really need to evaluate and make exception for. The bulky waste collection system in the Urban Services District is not very effective at getting rid of waste as it's generated, which leads to cleanliness issues. And we definitely have contractors that are taking advantage of that. And number 7, which is what the state in their site visit wanted us to put in here, the number of collection scenarios provided under residential contracts is too numerous to list in the plan. So they kind of wanted us at one point for every city to have its own thing, and we would have to write down how they do their solid waste management, which could be up to 82 cities that we would have to list in the plan. It's just unfeasible for us to even get all that information and put it in there. So we put it in as being a little bit more of a more overall review of that system. They felt like that's a weakness to the plan, but if we was going to do it, that's what they wanted us to put in as a weakness. So some of our specific actions is number 1, and this is probably one of the most controversial ones that we've had. We want to determine through a third-party consulting firm, and with the sole purpose of creating a trusted set of facts, if changing from a multi-hauler subscription-based system to a single hauler contracted collection zones in the unincorporated and uncontracted areas would provide service levels and cost compared to the contracted and the municipal areas. So in other words, we want to see if what this current situation is in that subscription-based area to see if we need to do something to bring them in line with what everybody else has in the county. We also want that consultant to determine, to the extent possible, the not so monetary benefits such as minimizing efficiencies, damage to roads, greenhouse gas emissions, safety, and those types of things. This is something that is really kind of a trust factor. And I think that by us doing this and through a third party, it's going to give us and having the waste management district do this through an RFP process that everybody has their input into how it's done, as opposed to the way the study did it, would lend us a good solid set of facts so that we can make decisions down the road. Does anybody have any questions about that? I know that the one thing I want to say is this is not moving forward with doing any contracting in those unincorporated and uncontracted areas. It's just looking at the cost of it and seeing if there's opportunity there. Any questions, concerns?
And this study would begin next, I guess, well, next calendar year and next fiscal year.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, this would meet a lot of resistance, wouldn't it, from the individual waste haulers and also these communities, or would it not? I mean, I know there's a lot of friction there, but
This is the one item that's been most discussed. And I wouldn't pretend to want to give the side of that, but I do know that it is one of these items that is of concern.
But basically, it's saying that you have the Urban Services District, which we're all kind of under the umbrella of the old city of Louisville. And then you have all these other areas that aren't under our purview that have their own private haulers. So you're talking about those areas, right?
No, we're talking about the Urban Services District. You're right about that. And then a lot of cities and HOAs have contracted with one hauler already. So there's no need to do anything there. Where
Okay.
we're talking about is where there isn't a contract and every individual homeowner has to get a subscription with a private hauler, which could mean up to 5 different haulers on the same street.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the efficiencies that the cities already achieved, the city of Louisville, the old city of Louisville, the Urban Service District, and the small cities and the homeowners associations, where people get together and they let a competitive contract, and they're getting, given the size of their city, they're getting the best price that they can get, and a competitive price on the services, as well as the cities. And some of the cities like J-Town that are much larger, they're getting a very competitive price. So that's already being taken care of. This is only referring, at least the way that I understand it, we're only referring to what would be the unincorporated areas, where there's not a homeowners association that's organized in the deed, and there's not a city. People don't belong to any type of city. It's because there's no sense reinventing the wheel. There are those people, those entities, the cities and the homeowners association, they're already getting the benefits of competitive bidding and the efficiencies that you come from having one hauler getting a large amount of business.
And what's the estimate of what percentage of these individual, homes are out there? I mean, do we even know?
It comes up to approximately 40% of the county is on subscription service. The one thing that we don't know is how much of that is HOA, and that would reduce that percentage. But generally, the Urban Services District is 40% of the county households. The small cities are 20%, give or take, and the unincorporated area is around 40%. So that's typically how it breaks up, at least through from the logic system that looks at boundaries and things.
I
Okay.
think one of the things that we should not overlook is that many areas are considering incorporating either as a city or another kind of organization, and so that they can get some of the benefits that they see happening in these areas that do have this advantage. So this number can be changing as in the real near future. So
Where would the pushback come from?
Carl, I can barely hear you.
I think he said, where would the pushback come from, correct?
Yes.
In the studying it, I still think that we'll get some pushback from the private waste collectors, maybe some of the residents in that area that really want to be able to choose their own. But it's important to note that we're doing this to get a set of facts, and using that set of facts, people can make better decisions. You know, and Mary Rose, as far as other areas wanting to incorporate, and that's fine. If somebody incorporates, then they're really not part of this, because
Right,
it is
exactly.
specifically part of the, you know, getting those people in that subscription area
right.
into a better system and to get them on level services with the rest of the county. Right now, it seems as though we have a two-tier system to a certain degree. And so I think part of that pushback is going to come from the private haulers.
So I think I need to jump in here, being a member of the board from those unincorporated areas that have 5 or 6 haulers down my street. And I think I heard, well, first of all, I want to say not all those haulers charge the same price. They charge a lower price, but then they provide lesser fees. So you have to choose how much you want to haul your own recyclables to the recycling center, or you want to put them out on the curb. Also, there are households that simply put things out in big bags. They gather all over the place. They don't have a service of their own. So I think I heard you say that you would like to contract areas that different haulers could bid on an area. Then they would service all the homes in that area, which, coming from you know, my street is 1 block long, 5 haulers. I think that idea is good if those unincorporated areas could be divided into districts and then bid on by a single hauler. I think I heard you say that. Is that correct?
Yes, I think that is the potential. But what we're doing here is just getting the facts to be able to make a decision on whether or not that would be beneficial. So yes,
Well,
you're
I would definitely encourage that.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important to notice here that this proposal in the solid waste plan is strictly for the board to, with a whole lot of input from all parties that would be involved in this. At least this is the way I'm looking at it, is or the way I'm interpreting this, is that we would have to get a lot of input up front to determine and agree on an independent third-party consulting firm that would gather this information. Once all of the information is gathered and they make their financial analysis and environmental analysis and operational analysis and present it to the board, then the board has to decide what to do with it, what, if anything, to do with it. This will not commit the board or the county to doing anything. This just commits us to taking a hard look at it to see, is there a benefit? And if there is a definite benefit that is identified, then comes really the hard part, is deciding when, if, and how you do this. So this would not immediately cause this to happen. It's down the road a ways if it happens.
Not too far down.
Any additional comments or keep on going, Pete?
Okay.
Okay, the next item here is, and I can see I have a numbering issue. The collection hauler will update. It is basically something that I have to put in the plan. It says that we're going to keep track of the haulers, and they want that in every plan in the state. So don't worry about that one. The number 2 here is create outreach programs for each waste sector that includes best practice guides or toolkits focusing on responsible waste management, how to obtain services, how to perform waste audits and or potentially to reduce their waste management costs, and what services must be offered by private waste collectors. So in other words, we want to be able to get the word out to commercial businesses, industrial businesses, residential HOAs, and anybody on best practices on being able to do that. And we've got plenty of model communities here that we can model that with. Some of the private or some of the small cities already have some of these contracts that they could give input in how best to obtain those types of services if you're an HOA and stuff. So we want to develop that. And I think that's something that's important that we haven't done. We want to create a technical assistance program for each waste sector for people to help setting up programs. This program would work in conjunction with the outreach program. But if we go to send somebody out to a business that has zero recycling right now, we give them toolkits and they still need some help. We send out a technical assistance person to go out to do a waste audit with them to find places that they can recycle and recover or reduce their waste, potentially reduce their cost, or decide that they want to do more sustainable things by recycling or composting. So this is to go out there and get new recycling. So that's what that technical assistance is. And another reason why we wanted to add another educator to be able to go out and do this. The last thing here is create marketing program to standardize solid waste messaging across the solid waste management area and to reinforce overall messaging of putting waste in its place. And we would include elements of the outreach and technical assistance in 3 and 4. So this is something that we're kind of already starting to do with our marketing firm anyway. So it's all going to kind of tie together. So that is more or less what we want to do to improve our collection system. Any questions on the collection system? In the disposal system, this is anything in red that you see in here are things that has not been reviewed by the advisory committee at all. They have seen this, and there was a lot of questions about why certain numbers were where they were. And we get these numbers and projections from the state, and some of them just did not make any sense. So I got with Bob Schindler, who was part of the people that went out and have done these plans for several decades. And I went back and I looked at old plans. We feel like that the state has kind of changed the form and took it away from what its intent was. And when I spoke with the state, they said that we can change this however we want. So this is what we've come up with. And I think that it gives us a better idea of waste generation for 5, 10, and 20 years down the road. They originally only had these sections here. So we're projecting that between 2023 and 2027, our area will generate over 4 million tons of waste. From 2028, we'll generate another 4,324,000 tons. But over 10 years, that equates to 8,461 tons. This is a number that the state had projected, but their form only gave a 5-year time frame. So we think that we've gotten this right here. So over 10 years, we're going to generate that much waste. And then from 2033 to 2037, we're going to generate another 44,600,000 tons of waste. And we put from 20 in the 20-year time period, that'll equal up to 18 million tons of waste. What is this based upon? This is based upon how much waste has been generated in the past, census data, and how much waste per person per year. So that's what these projections come from. So that's why the population projections going out is so important. Any questions on that? Again, the committee needs to look at these numbers.
And it should be noted that US EPA from time to time changes their waste generation projection, that they say the average household in the country generates X number of pounds of waste per day or per week or whatever. And that gets to be a problem, because that's just a generalization that they apply to use strictly for planning purposes nationwide, and that can be highly variable. It can be highly variable. We've discovered over the years from one neighborhood to the other. So putting these waste projections together is more of an art than a science. And Pete brought this, or asked me to help him review this, and we did. And what the state had originally proposed, just some of their projections and they crossed over time periods, and they just didn't make any sense. So this is staff's best effort to try to put this in a logical order.
So why do we do this? It's so that we as a community can plan for the waste that we generate over the next so many years. And the next step to that is total capacity authorized to date. And we have to get a letter from at least 2 landfills that says that they can handle these amounts of waste over those years. So they're called capacity assurance. So we have to go out, now that we projected this, we have to go out and get assurances from a disposal facility that they'll hold that for us. And that's what we've done. Haven't gotten those letters totally yet. But as part of this, the state requires us to do an authorized capacity that we set. And, based upon the numbers that we've got, we put 10 million tons between 2023 and 2033. Which should give plenty of space. And then we start to calculate that over the years. So right now there's 10 million tons remaining once we adopt this plan. And every year that this number gets added to. This number, according to the state, can get changed every year or 10 times a year. It's totally up to the community to do so. They're kind of changing the way that they view this. And I'm not sure that they've totally got it right. So time will tell on where we're at. Now we used to have a community host agreement, which when you have a community host agreement, it will spell out what these things are in more of an agreement form. But because we don't have that now, we have to base this upon what we see as is that we're going to generate, and making sure that we have that capacity. Any questions on those numbers? Okay. The rest of this is really kind of about debris management and in the event of a natural disaster. Unfortunately, they seem like they're happening a little bit more often. In the state of Kentucky, you've had those massive floods. You had the tornadoes last fall, I guess. And now we got what's going on down in Florida with that the hurricane. But disaster planning and management of those waste after these disasters is something that everyone is emphasizing that we're prepared for. So we're working on our debris management plan to make sure that we're going to be ready to go. This describes that plan is in general terms. While it's 3 pages long, the actual plan is going to be much more than that. But it's when the disaster happens, how we're going to separate the material to reduce the amount of material that's going to go to the landfill in a large sum. So that's what FEMA wants us to do and what we will do. So our strengths, we have a privately owned land and operated landfill within the county. It has plenty of authorized capacity and capacity. It's a state-of-the-art landfill. We are blessed to have that in our community. Many communities don't. We have several transfer stations that waste can be loaded and shipped to other landfills in the region. And this provides additional capacity assurance for our county. So those things are huge for us. And some communities don't have that. We have a waste to energy facility for used tires. That is CEMEX. And since CEMEX has went into operation and was approved by this board at a certain time through a consistency determination, there has been less tire piles in our community. They're drawing in 3.1 million tires a year from our region. So having that waste tire facility has been huge. And so that's a definite strength for us. All of these types of facilities are within easy driving distance to people, which should make it a lot less tempting to go illegally dump it. So we have lots of options for people. Still can't understand why people would do something like that when it's so easy. We have several beneficial use facilities that accept inert material in a beneficial use. So it's going to be used to fill something so that place can be used instead of filling up valuable landfill space. Our weaknesses is that there's a lot of good material that goes into disposal now that we have existing facilities to reduce, to reuse it, to recycle it, or to beneficially reuse it. So there's a huge amount on opportunity there to do better. One of the other weaknesses is the final closure of Southern Materials on Votes Avenue is nearly complete. This is a facility that it was a unregulated landfill back in the 90s. It was closed because they could not come into compliance. It sat vacant as a dump spot for 10 or 15 years with various people trying to operate something there. And recently, through an agreed order with the state, there's an operator there that has filled the holes and has capped it to keep water penetration out of the old fill, which is contaminated. So it's a good thing. The bad part about this is with it closing, all of a sudden, a lot of that material has to find a new home. And if it goes to disposal, it's going to impact our diversion rate. If what we hope is that a lot of that material will be recycled and recovered in other ways, so we don't have such an impact. So that being said, the things that we want to do is we want to complete this disaster management plan and work with Metro government to get that done. We want to hire a consultant to improve local, regional, and use opportunities for drywall, concrete, and shingles, with the end goal of making better conditions for a mixed C&D processing facility. And again, that goes back to what we're going to lose here in beneficial waste, beneficial use. We hope that by doing this, we're going to reduce the amount of the impact of those facilities closing and be able to get more jobs, more recycling for construction and demolition material. We want to negotiate a new community host agreement. We've already agreed that we need to do that with the Waste District, and we haven't been able to do that right at this time. And the last thing is we want to consider amending our ordinance to allow flexibility during emergency situations, such as the recent pandemic. And that is when there aren't enough waste haulers. We have to be able to adapt and be more flexible with our ordinances to allow different collection scenarios so that we can at least get the waste up in a public health emergency, or to allow us flexibility during a disaster to handle debris in a more efficient manner. A lot of people are going to set out a bunch of tree debris with a bunch of construction debris. Ordinance doesn't allow us to collect them commingled. So we have to do something about that. So we're already working on that as well. Does anybody have any questions about the disposal section? How am I doing on time? 6:51. I can go into the recycling and reduction section, but it is fairly long. Let me jump past that one because we're not going to get it done, and go to a couple of the other quick chapters. Open dumps. Open dumps are large things. It's going to be also small dumps that we have. We define that through there, and if anybody has any questions about that, we can drop back to it. But some of the things that we want to do here is replace the announcement-based collection system in the Urban Services District with the appointment-based system, where people can set out 4 large items per week based upon an appointment. This should create a cleaner community and allow people to get rid of waste as it's generated instead of taking it down the alley because they've got no other way to dispose of it, and they don't want to wait to the 3-time-a-year pickup system. Already in the process of doing that. Consider amending 51-300 to include a minimum of a once per month collection of bulky items too large to fit into the garbage containers, to make that to be included in the basic service package that is required to be offered by waste collectors as a condition of their license. In other words, in some of this, there's a lot of people in the community that don't have a bulky waste collection option. And this would require that be offered. And if we do that, regardless of whether or not we do anything in those subscription areas, this should reduce the need for illegal dumping because they don't have any other option to get rid of bulky items. And the last thing is to create an illegal dumping education and outreach messaging as part of our larger messaging and marketing that we're doing. And this would really focus on ensuring businesses and residents understand the importance of waste management to the community, their responsibilities to ensure their waste is disposed of in a permitted facility, and to publicize disposal options that people have. I think that doesn't get out there nearly enough, and we're hoping that our marketing company can help us through that. Any questions on the illegal dumping section? Okay. Litter. Litter's been it's a huge issue. The first thing that we want to do is create an anti-litter messaging. We've already started on that with the overall campaign of putting waste in its place, focusing on behavior change to reduce that, and hopefully we can change public perception. We want to conduct a countywide litter basket inventory and look to add litter baskets where it makes sense, and to deploy them out in the suburban area where there really isn't a litter basket system unless somebody is paying for it through a private collector or a company has agreed to empty it. And lots of times what happens is a Metro Council person leaves office, they don't continue to fund that litter basket, or a company management changes and they decide they're not going to empty that litter basket anymore, in which it causes a problem. So hopefully we are going to put litter baskets out there. The district board already approved 100 of them for the suburban area, and Metro government's going to empty them so that we can improve our cleanliness out in the suburban areas. Explore a subscription with a thing called Literati. It's an education piece, and it's a worldwide crowdsourcing program that you can go on there if you want to search this, and you can look at pieces of litter that have been geocoded by kids or people all over the world. And you can actually see a picture of it. And what it does is a perfect example is a school did this. And what they found was that most of the litter on their campus was created by the little straw cellophane on the outside of that straw. And when they saw 90% of it was from there, they went to their cafeteria and got them to quit using those straws. So they reduced litter that way. So it's an educational thing, but it's also to put pressure on people to reduce litter. And again, replace the bulky waste collection system, which we've already talked about before. Any questions on those? Okay. I'm going to stop there. So we still have facility siting and enforcement and recycling to do. And I want to take us to, if we could, Bob, if I can take us to back to the presentation and have Karen talk real quick about the staff report.
Yeah, he wanted me to share a little bit about the off events. We have one on Saturday at Sun Valley, and this is our 2022 running list of potential locations, participants, and then the weights of materials that we collected. Some of it is estimated based on an average weight from EPA, or if we know, like for example, tires, we often give them the weight. So I had sent our chart to the council person after the event. So in this case, it was Councilwoman Fowler. But this was what happened on Saturday as far as the number of vehicles and material categories that they brought. So the majority brought bulky waste, and then it goes down from there, as you can see on the right, with electronics and documents being the two next highest. And we do like to do a zip code map. That was the next slide, Pete. So it never really fails. The red, the majority of the people are coming from right around where the event took place. So this year we did 2 and 4, but instead of the third, we did one at Dawes High School because it brought it a little further east and helped us capture some folks from different zip codes compared to last year. So we use these maps to figure out maybe some gaps in our participation. Was that the last slide? Oh, well, yeah, this was the community center right down the street from where we're having an event. And some of our staff had gone there to use the restroom and actually caught some people dumping and told them they needed to put their stuff back in their car and take it to the event, which they did, but some items were already there. So, so that's just kind of an issue when we do these, we share about these events. I did actually share this photo on social media as a comment to my post, just allowing people to come to the event to say that we appreciate those that use our events properly, but not those that select them. They're not supposed to. So that's an issue. No matter what we do, somebody's always trying to dump. But with our impounds and all the enforcement, plus offering these events as much as we can, hopefully we're making a dent in the problem. Does anyone have any questions about our pop-up events? Hopefully, I'll go ahead and say we have 2 more left. One at Metro Fleet Services parking lot in, well, there it is, New October 29th, and then 19th Fern Creek Elementary. We're using the entrance of the elementary school, but the event will really be set up in the high school. They're right next door to each other.
Just one comment. Everybody involved in creating the idea for this pop-up drop-off thing should be complimented, because we're getting way more stuff and way more public participation than we did when we had one drop-off location, which was a cooperative program with the landfill. This pop-up drop-off schedule that you all have created makes it much more convenient for the public, and it is showing up in increased disposal compared to what was done with the old program. So everybody deserves a kudos for this.
And I would include the board, because the board is the one that entered into the agreement to purchase the front load vehicle for the self-service sites, and which has made Metro government more efficient in their collection of those items. And in return, Metro government conducts these pop-up drop-off events. So that's a great partnership between the two, and mutually beneficial in my book. So thank you to the board for approving that when we did it.
Any other questions of Karen on the pop-up drop-off?
Bob, it's not a question for Karen, but I have another meeting at 7 and I need to leave the meeting. I apologize for having to leave before it's over, but
that's quite all right. Thanks for coming in. We're for all practical purposes done.
right. I thought so. So thank you all. Bye.
Anything else from Karen or Pete or Kedrick on staff report? Any additional questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from the audience? Announcements?
Okay, announcements on the agenda. We've kind of taken a look at this, and we've come up with a plan to hopefully get us through to getting the 5-year plan approved and onto the state. So it will require us to modify our meeting schedule, and this is kind of what our proposal is. We've already got an approval through Bruce Burrow to have a special advisory committee meeting next on the 6th. I don't know what day that is next week, but on the 6th. And the goal of that meeting is to finalize this plan and vote on it to get it to the board for your consideration. The following week, on October 12th, the board would have another special meeting to approve the solid waste management plan and hopefully send it out to public comment. If you approve that, then it would hit the newspaper hopefully on October 14th. And it has to be put out there in a certain method. It's, 2 columns, certain size font, all of those things that we have to follow. And then we're in our 30-day public comment period. We would come back on November 14th to have our first public hearing on the plan. The board will hear and see all of the written comments, and they will have people can come up and give their comments verbally as well at that hearing. After that hearing, we would come back on November 17th to consider all of those comments and to hopefully adopt the plan through a resolution, and then we would submit it to the state. Now, we have a December 15th deadline. And what I would say is that when we looked at this timeline, we run right into Thanksgiving, which is, going to be hard for us to get a quorum, hard for us to do public hearings. So I know that this expedites this timeline, but this is the only way that we're really going to get it done. And when you get past Thanksgiving, then you start to roll into the holiday season, in which case a lot of people have plans. So hopefully we can get this done. If on November 17th, if we can't come to a conclusion, or the board says, no, we need to make changes, we have to go to the state and say, all right, this is what we have to do. Are we going to have to go back out to another 30-day public comment period? And the state will give us a yay or nay. Hopefully they give us no, that's minor. we can go ahead and adopt it. And at that case, the board will have to come back again and vote to approve with any minor amendments. So that is the process going forward. If there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
I may have a conflict on the 12th. I'm due to be out of town at this point. I don't know if I'm just one member, so it shouldn't, if everyone else can attend, it shouldn't be a problem, should it?
Yeah, let us know if it's going to be a problem for someone. And, if we want everybody there, obviously. But if it's one person or so, we may forward just due to our time constraint.
Right.
Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, good luck to us.
Yes.
Anything else under announcements, Pete, that you want to specifically bring up? Pete?
Nah, I've got nothing else.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board or anybody watching this meeting? Okay, hearing none, I thank you all very, very much for your attendance and participation once again. And we will see you all at the October 26th board meeting.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Night, everybody. We're leaving on the 26th, I think.
I'm trying to close it.
Little red X, I think.
Susan,
Yes, Ray.
we're leaving. on the
Yeah,
26th.
red X.
Tap, if you don't see a red X, tap the bottom of your screen and stuff might come up.
Diana, I think Susan was double connected.
Oh, okay.
There she goes.
It probably doesn't make any difference because we'll see what happens next time. But for some reason, it could just be my computer. But Karen was real fuzzy.
Brandon made a
volume.
comment. Brandon made a comment in the chat. I'll talk to Karen about it. I don't notice it when she's here on other meetings. It might just be when she's at home, or
Well,
there's
and I've
something in
never
that
noticed.
microphone.
This is the first time I've ever noticed it with her computer. So
Yeah, and I've heard it before when she was at home. So we'll check into it because we gotta have Karen's voice to be strong.
I mean, I could understand her, but I had to really, really pay a lot of attention to catch it in between the fuzz. It was fuzzy more than anything. I mean, you could hear her, but there was like just static or fuzzy going on while she was talking.
Not easy listening.
No.
So how do you think my explanation went as far as the plan? What, because I'm not real sure how to present this thing. Is what I did okay?
Yeah. I thought you did fine. I thought you did a good job of explaining hiring the consultant. That's not gonna, people are still gonna take that and make more of it than it is.
Probably.
Because, and I didn't want to bring it up, and maybe at some point, if it gets too much, this causes too much controversy.